everybody. This is Curtis Lawson, aka the Striker, and we here are going to have another edition of The World Outside My Window. Now, for today's topic, like I was about to, get to drawing a few conclusions here. I was actually in some deep thought for the last, say, 10, 12 hours. Of course, everyone knows that it's Black History Month. And this is also talking about the accomplishments of people from our past and our present, and hopefully those that are preparing for our future. And the thing that actually caught my mind and crossed my mind was the concept of legacy. See, this is something which crosses a lot of families' minds, and especially from those of the mid to older generation. They always think of legacy as wanting to leave something to their children, so that way they can actually see the potential of new growth in some house, in some elaborate concept. People leave inheritances. Some are usually in monetary value. Some are usually in family heirlooms and things of that nature. Again, like I said, it crossed my mind, and it just gives me a big pause of thought. It's like, what is it that we try to leave for our children? Besides the nonsense of drama, the nonsense of repeating the things that we've done in our past, or in any case, making the new mistakes of what we didn't do. It kind of sounds confusing, but in a sense, it's like, okay, you want your children to do better than you, but in the same sense, you're viewing that they're making the mistakes that you've done, and you see it you see it as it goes along. And in the spirit of all that, there's another topic I wanted to actually jump over to, and it's about the matter of choice. Now, recently, we just found out that, I guess you could say, basketball star Dwayne Wade and his wife Gabrielle Union, their 12-year-old, he's now a 12-year-old child. Let's just put it like this: he was born a male, and now wants to identify himself as a female. I see that I'm actually looking at 2 points about this, and the first point I'm going to actually address is the fact that, okay, my issue with the whole thing is, first off, why does the public need to know this? I'm sorry. I have friends in the LGBT community. I had some family who are part of that as well, too. There's still some that are out there. Whoever you choose to sleep with, that's your business. If you're straight, whoever your girlfriend or boyfriend is, that's your business. It's not bothering me. It's not hurting me because I'm not in that situation. You are. The same thing goes to those who are identified as gay or lesbian. You're in that relationship. I don't really have much of a say to it. I just say, okay, this is who you're with. Cool, whatever. If you're a nice person, I'm nice to you. If you're a jackass, then guess what? You're going to get treated like one. No offense, but this is how it is. You treat me unfairly, or you try to talk down to me, I'm going to actually look at you and call you a condescending fool. But in light of all that, the reason why I say that, the reason why I say what I said at the beginning is this. First off, again, this is what I guess was instilled from the parents to the child, to make this sound decision. Now, this child is not even 18 yet. This child is still, again, a child. He's not even hit his teenage years. They haven't hit their teenage years. Again, this is where a lot of things are going to end up being addressed here. This person has not gotten to their teenage years, but yet they've made a sound decision to identify as something in which they're not, but they want to be identified as this. It's strange that in all aspects of this process, this transitioning process, the parents aren't thinking of the fact that, okay, my child's going to identify as this. what's going to happen to their life as they go to school and they go throughout life. You're not looking at the 5 to 10 year plan in retrospect to your children. That's what I feel that Mr. Wade and Miss Union have not looked into. Is the fact that, okay, this child's going to identify themselves as female. What effect is that going to have when it comes to them going to school, going out into the real world? Yes, there are people who consider it an abomination and everything else under the sun about being gay and lesbian. I understand that. I was raised into that too. But at the same time, I learned this. I began to open up and learn that there's value to people besides the sexuality. The sexuality is something that's on their turn of events. I don't go around telling the world, yes, I'm a straight man. I like to screw women. I'd rather be like, listen, I like who I like, and that's I love who I love, and that's it. It's not your business. It's not the whole world's. And second, from the parent's perspective, I mean, just as being a parent, why would you allow your child to make that kind of sound decision? And then you just go along with it. Someone actually posted something about that there's a strange pattern, like you see all these basketball stars and all of a sudden they have gay children. Right now you have Dwayne Wade. Previously you had Magic Johnson. His son is a homosexual. And yet they're cool with that. I'm like, I understand where you're coming from, but again, going back to the logical rhetoric, is that okay? That's your personal business. That's your private family business. Private business within your immediate family, and no one else needs to know that. The whole world doesn't need to know that, because more than likely, there are going to be people that accept it, and there are going to be people looking at you and laughing at you. No offense. I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat it or say anything disingenuous. I'm saying it as how it is. Yes, we are living in a time where people are still looking for acceptance. Hell, there are African Americans to this day, whether they are light, dark skin, have a criminal record, don't have a criminal record, have college degrees, have a high school diploma, that are still looking for acceptance throughout society. But unfortunately, in that aspect, they still can't get it as anticipated. And that's not just African Americans. That's African Americans, that's Latinos, that's some Asians, on all aspects. There's people out there that are trying to look for acceptance throughout society, but yet society has this type of, okay, you can go but so far, but here's the wall. You can't go past that wall any longer. And that goes for every culture. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. With that being said, again, back to the situation about, we can call this sexuality talk. As far as the concept of the supposed new age of changes, yes. Again, honestly, and I'll be perfectly honest with you. Okay, President Obama, he was an okay president, but he failed African Americans on the biggest scale known to man. As far as us getting some sort of advantages, we had none. All we did was sit here and praise and say, hey, we got a black president. But that didn't do us any good, because the LGBT community got a head start. I mean, I'm sorry. The Republican supporters felt like they were getting pushed aside and left behind, but the LGBT community got a leg up, including them getting legalized marriages, benefits, and all other stuff. And then all of a sudden they talk about now with the STEM program, we're transitioning into where now, no offense, but this is the transition I'm looking at. LGBT community are getting much more of a leg up, where it's like now their preeminence, their presence matters more than an African American male or female. Mostly the male, not the female, the male. it's to a point with this that in order for an African American male to get any kind of noticeability, he has to turn around and either say he's gay or has to wear a dress. Sad to say, but it's weird. Sad to say, and it's weird. Just weird to be saying this. And I'm a straight man who was brought up by Christian, who was raised up in Christian values. Yet I chose to be a spiritual version of Christianity instead of just the textbook Christian that is supposedly always acting like they're holier than thou, and yet and yet they still have skeletons in the closet. I'm a person that knows I have flaws, but yet I accept them and I deal with it. I'd rather move on. Let's see. Again, with that now, with that community, it's like they want to be pronounced. They don't want gender identifications. They don't want this. They want to be identified as they, and all kinds of craziness. And yet, like this, there's still people out there in the world that are looking at them like, huh? Are you serious? This is what you want? This is insane. And then you also have those who are transgender that are getting upset talking about, how come straight men won't date you and this and the third. I'll be honest with you. I actually got approached by a transgendered man that went and got the surgery, had breasts and all the other stuff, and was in an actual male dominated prison or prison wing. And I'm sitting here like, this one actually came up to me, asked me, did I have a girlfriend? I said, I'm sorry, but I am. I said, was I single? And I'm like, I'm sorry, but I'm actually engaged. And that's a no for me. I'm sorry, I couldn't. Some things when you do in your younger days, you do is stupid. And there's some things that you do as you get older, you get a wise head and you learn. Don't do those mistakes again. But again, to that whole thing, it's like, okay, their rights are ahead of everyone else, are ahead of black males, of black men in general, along with the fact that now I'm seeing that we're rolling into a pretty much women-led society. It's nothing wrong with it. It's like we're basically seeing the roles reversed on the households, where more women are actually getting the jobs, education, and everything else on that rhetoric. And the men are being left, and some men who are trying to improve themselves, even those who are formerly incarcerated, are being left behind and trying to move forward. And it's not that it's a bad thing. It's more or less on the level of there's supposed to be a level of, there's supposed to be something about equality. And the sad thing about it is that there isn't any. I'm not trying to be discerning to anyone of a different sexual orientation, gender, whatever the case may be. I'm not trying to be discerning against that. I'm saying that there was supposed to be a gateway for equality for everybody, and apparently there still isn't. And you want to know why? It's because society is trying to gear us out of that process, and it's making everyone still in a rat race that no one's winning. Let's just be honest. It's a rat race that no one's winning. Everyone swears they're up ahead in the lead, but yet no one is actually in the lead to see the finish line. That's how I feel about it. I'm going to end this part off as of right now to end part one. I think I'm going to come back and do part two probably in a few hours. I got to take care of some personal business. But again, this is your boy Striker Prime, and this is another edition of The World Outside My Window. So I'll see you again later on today, and we'll continue this on further.